In a courtroom, an elderly Jewish gentleman is called as a witness and sworn in, and the attorney, the DA, asks him his age, and he answers Knanohada 86. So the DA doesn't know what's this word Knanohada. He says, "Mr. Cohn, please just state your age." He says, Knanohada 86. He's getting very flustered with this. He says, "Please, just a number, just your age. How old are you, Mr. Cohn?" He says, Knanohada 86. The DA can't take it anymore. There's another lawyer who's sitting in the gallery, a Jewish lawyer who's waiting for a later trial, but he's watching this go on. He gets up and he asks permission to approach the bench. The judge says, "Okay, come over, counselor." He says, "Listen, I think I know the problem. Is it okay if I help out?" So the judge asks the DA, "This other attorney, he'd like to help out with your witness here." He says, "By all means, if he can get a straight answer out of him, go ahead." So the Jewish attorney says to the elderly Jewish gentleman, "Mr. Cohn, Knanohada, how old are you?" He says, 86. Okay. We're going to talk about Jewish trigger words. Jewish trigger words. Why? What? Where? This week is Parshas Chukas, and Parshas Chukas begins with the law of the Red Heifer, the Parah Aduma, which was used as a means for purification from ritual impurity, from contact with the dead. Now, if we look in Rambam, in the Mishnah Torah of the Rambam of Maimonides, in the laws of Parah Aduma, Hilchos Parah Aduma, specifically in Perek Gimel Halacha Daled, chapter 3, paragraph 4. There he mentions a little bit of the history of the red heifer. He tells us, "V'teisha paras adumais naisu mishnitztavu b'mitzvazu." Since this mitzvah was commanded, there have been 9 of these red heifers that were used for the purification ritual. Ad shecharav beis habayis hasheni, until the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. Rishayna, the first one, Asa Meish Rabbeinu, was made by our teacher Moses. Shniya Asa Ezra, the second red heifer, was prepared by Ezra the scribe, who led the Jews back in the times of the Second Temple. Veshava me'ezra ad churban habayis, and then there were 7 more from the time of Ezra until the destruction of the Second Temple, which totals 9. V'ha'asiris, and the 10th, Yasa HaMelech HaMashiach, will be prepared by the King Mashiach. Mehera Yegala, may he be speedily revealed. Amen ken yehi ratzain, so may it be Hashem's will. Okay. Simple question. Mishnah Torah is a book of halacha. It's a book of law. It's not a prayer book. So how come the Rambam is davening? He's saying that prayer. Amen ken yehi ratzain, so may it be God's will. Right there in the middle of these laws. Now, you might say, well, that's precisely the point. The Rambam is always teaching us many, many laws, and maybe he was teaching us that we have to pray for Mashiach. Okay, so maybe that's the point, that he mentions Mashiach, and he says, Amen ken yehi ratzain, so may it be Hashem's will that Mashiach should be speedily revealed. And it's to teach us that we should not just believe in Mashiach, but we should ask for Mashiach and pray for Mashiach and beseech Hashem to send Mashiach. Maybe that's what he's teaching. However, I have a question. There's a whole section of Rambam dedicated just to Mashiach. Chapters 11 and 12 of Hilchos Malachim, at the very end of Mishnah Torah. That's where the laws of Mashiach are dealt with. So the Rambam could have dealt with it right there. He could have told us, not only should you expect Mashiach and believe in Mashiach, you should constantly cry out for Mashiach and ask Hashem to send Mashiach. He could have told us over there. Why does he show us this Amen ken yehi ratzain, this prayer of asking for Mashiach, in the middle of Hilchos Parah Aduma, the laws of the red heifer, which is a totally unrelated area, and Mashiach happens just to come up tangentially as a side point. So this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Jewish trigger words. We hear a lot about nowadays about, being triggered, or we see news reports that have trigger warnings. And the truth is, it's a natural human trait to have strong emotional associations with certain words, whether it's positive or negative. Think about a little kid. If you tell a child, doctor's appointment, okay, they're going to suddenly get a very strong emotional reaction, probably very negative. Or imagine if you say to a kid, ice cream. Okay, just say the word ice cream, and all of a sudden they get all excited, and you better have ice cream because they're not going to calm down until you give them ice cream, right? And the truth is, it's not just children, because we don't really grow out of trigger words. Our triggers just sort of change. As we grow, we still have trigger words. They're just different than they were when we were kids. Like, for instance, there are words that I could say right now in the middle of giving this class that would totally distract and derail everyone's attention, because these words are so polarizing and they evoke such an immediate and automatic intense response that all of a sudden that would just be the focus. It would just take all of your emotional energy, and we'd be done talking about whatever we wanted to talk about, whatever was planned. And that's why, if you're giving a class, by the way, you try to avoid those words that are going to unnecessarily evoke a really powerful emotion that's off the topic of what you're trying to talk about. And a lot of these words are political. I mean, just let's be honest. A lot of these trigger words are political buzzwords, and they get a very, very strong automatic response from people. Now, we as Jews, we have sort of special trigger words. And, maybe you remember when it has happened to you. Maybe you can recall the first time somebody ever referred to you with an anti-Semitic slur, and you remember how that felt. Or maybe even you can remember not necessarily someone even trying to be anti-Semitic, and they weren't maybe even speaking to you, but you've probably been in a situation, or perhaps you've been in a situation where you hear, other people speaking, non-Jews maybe are speaking, and they mention the Holocaust, or they mention Israel, okay? And there's an automatic, very strong emotional reaction just from hearing those words. So I want to talk about a very important and special Jewish trigger word today. And we've already actually mentioned it, although I don't know if it triggered anybody. And maybe that's sort of the point. It's the M word. Mashiach. Now, in some ways, Mashiach's already a trigger word, especially if you say it in English, Messiah, right? You can use that word to scare people. Oh, those people, they believe in the Messiah, right? Okay. But Mashiach is always has always been somewhat of a polarizing concept, or a misunderstood concept. There's a story of Reb Nachum Chernobyler, that one time he stayed at an inn that was managed by a simple Jew. And he got up at midnight to say the Tikkun Chatzos prayer. At midnight, there's a prayer that the righteous say where they mourn for the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, of the Holy Temple. So Reb Nachum got up in the middle of the night, and he was saying his Tikkun Chatzos prayers, and he was crying, he was weeping. And the innkeeper was a simple Jew. He heard the crying. He didn't know what's going on. He comes, knocks on the door. Reb Nachum answers the door, and the innkeeper's standing there sort of sheepishly, like what's going on? And Reb Nachum says, "Oh, I'm saying Tikkun Chatzos." Now the simple Jew, he doesn't understand what that even means. So he says, "I'm crying for the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash." He doesn't understand what the Beis Hamikdash is, so he tries to explain it to him. Okay, all right, fine, Beis Hamikdash. So he goes back. The innkeeper leaves, goes back down the hall, and Reb Nachum continues to daven. He's crying, and a few minutes later, the innkeeper's back at the door knocking again. And he comes in and says, "Listen, I spoke to my wife. She wants to know why are you really crying? He says, no, I'm telling you, Beis HaMikdash, we want Mashiach to come. Mashiach, what are you talking about? Mashiach? He says, listen, let me try to make it accessible to you. Okay? He understands. This is a very simple Jew. He says, you know when the Cossacks get drunk and they come to town and they beat everybody up and they steal everything? That's not good, right? He's like, right. He says, okay, so Mashiach is going to come and take us all from here to the Holy Land, to the land of Israel. And then the Cossacks won't be able to beat us up anymore. Oh, okay, I think I get that. That I think I understand. So he closes the door, he goes back down the hall to go tell his wife. The innkeeper goes to tell his wife. And Reb Nachum continues davening. And he's crying. And then a few minutes later, knock at the door again. Opens the door, the innkeeper's standing there again. He says, listen, I spoke to my wife. We just paid ahead a whole year of rent on this inn to the Poritz. We can't go to Israel with Mashiach right now. My wife says, tell Mashiach to come and take the Cossacks and bring them to the land of Israel and leave us here. At any rate, the point is that Mashiach is a word that can evoke strong emotional associations, and it should evoke strong emotional associations. The point is that they should be very positive associations. That's the way we should be reacting. And when we hear the word, it should catch our attention. It should pull our focus. And that's actually what the Rambam is teaching us. We can answer our question now. We were asking before, why does the Rambam teach us that we need to pray for Mashiach when he says, Ken Yehi Rotzein, may it be Hashem's will that Mashiach be revealed very soon. Why does he do it in the wrong place? In the laws of Paraduma, of the Red Heifer, he should have done it in the laws of Mashiach, right? Because that itself is a lesson. That itself is part of the point. The Rambam wasn't just teaching us that we need to pray for Mashiach. The Rambam was teaching us that we should be so triggered by the word Mashiach that even when it's not the main point, even when it was just brought up tangentially, that wasn't the main point, guys, but we hear the word Mashiach so much as uttered, and we can't help ourselves. We get triggered, and we say, Hashem should send Mashiach already. Amen ken yehi rotzein, may it be Hashem's will. That's the point. You know, let me try to put this into language of our time. We all know that our devices are all spying on us at all times. Okay, we're constantly logged into our Google accounts, and our email is spying on us, and every time we use a search engine, it's spying on us. And I mean, we all accept this and we know this, and it's learning our habits. And that's why, by the way, people's opinions are getting more and more extreme. You think about it, we always had right and left, politically I'm saying, but today everything's polarized. You know why it's polarized? Because the search engines are learning what grabs your attention, what triggers you, so to speak, and they're using those things to pull your attention to keep you online, of course. So you go and you Google, how long should you bake an apple pie for? Okay? And so you get some results that are relevant, but then you get these results that are not, don't want to mention not nice things, but, YouTube. And this video itself, we post to YouTube as well for those who are on YouTube, right? So you go and you want to see how to fix a bike chain, okay? And you're looking for how to fix a bike chain. And then on the side, all of a sudden, there's a video, so-and-so destroys so-and-so in debate about such and such. Why does YouTube think that you're interested in that? Well, because it's smart. Because the guy who wrote the algorithm knows your trigger words, and he knows what's going to get you going, what's going to evoke a gut reaction from you. And then you click on that, and then it realizes and it learns, this is what keeps him engaged, this is what keeps him online. And then they keep on triggering you and triggering you and triggering you and evoking all these intense responses from you, because that's how they keep you online and advertise to you and make money off of you. Okay, but that's not my point. This is not social commentary about internet. The point is like this. Mashiach should be a word that when we hear it, it captures our focus so thoroughly. It just pulls our focus so that whatever else we were looking for, all of a sudden, Mashiach, that I would hope that if I'm going and I'm Googling, how long do you bake an apple pie for? Or if I'm looking for a YouTube video, how to fix a bike chain, YouTube should know that if it puts Mashiach in the side, oh, Mashiach, I won't be able to help myself. I'll click on it because I want to find out what does it say about Mashiach. Okay? Mashiach is supposed to be our Jewish trigger word, our biggest Jewish trigger word. And that's the lesson that Rambam is teaching. That he's in the middle of teaching the laws of Parah Aduma, and he happens to mention that the 10th Parah Aduma, the 10th Red Heifer, is going to be in the times of Melech HaMashiach, the times of King Mashiach. May he be revealed speedily. Can you not say, oh, all of a sudden he's davening. Why? Because when you so much as hear Mashiach mentioned, it's that trigger. Oh, got to click on it. Got to click on it. Got to go for it. Got to think about it. Got to talk about it. Got to relate to it. Have that emotional connection to it. That's what the Rambam is teaching us. That's what the Rambam is teaching us. So, when the search engine results start pushing Mashiach on us for everything we search for, we'll know that, sometimes you can learn a lot about yourself from what your search engine thinks you're interested in. So, halavai, whatever we go looking for, how do you make a paper airplane? And it, should tantalize us with some Mashiach clickbait, because it knows that just hearing the word Mashiach gets a reaction out of a Jew. And we should react and react and react until finally it becomes our reality.